There comes a moment in your life when the noise of the world becomes unbearable, when every voice around you chants the same quiet lullaby. Settle down. Settle for less. Settle because it's safe. Settle because everyone else did. Settle because it's what you're supposed to do. And that's the moment the fire inside you either dies or it roars, because the truth is brutal and the world won't say it out loud. Most people have already given up, not visibly, not in some grand surrender, but silently, in their routines, in their excuses, in the quiet compromise they made with mediocrity. They wake up, but they're not alive. They speak, but they say nothing. They move, but they're going nowhere. And if you're not careful, you'll inhale the same poison. You'll breathe in their comfort and suffocate your greatness. This world is full of talent that will never be seen, ideas that will never be built, dreams that will never be lived, because someone settled. Settling is the slowest suicide. It doesn't kill your body, it murders your potential. But listen to me. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't built for average. You didn't come this far just to crawl back into the crowd. You came here to rise, and to rise, you will need to walk a different road, a lonelier road, a harder road, but a road lined with legacy, a road paved by the greats. Lincoln walked it. Ford walked it. Edison walked it. Jobs walked it. You must walk it too, the path of the few, the path of discipline, of relentless improvement, of self-respect so strong you would rather be hated for your excellence than liked for your laziness. Because here's the truth. The average want you to stay average. Your growth offends their stagnation. Your ambition exposes their apathy. You rising shines a light on the fact that they never tried, and they will mock you for it. They will doubt you. They will warn you to be realistic. But you don't need to be realistic. You need to be relentless. So let them talk. Let them roll their eyes. Let them cling to their comfort like a shield. You were born for discomfort. You were built for pressure. You were forged for something more. And the moment you decide, truly decide, to rise above average, you must kill the old version of you. The one who needed approval. The one who played small. The one who believed that playing it safe was somehow noble. There is nothing noble about wasting your life. There is nothing wise about avoiding risk, and there is nothing brave about doing what everyone else is doing. Greatness begins where comfort ends. You must train yourself to love the uphill climb. To find meaning in the struggle. To see resistance not as a wall, but as a mirror, revealing the parts of you still unwilling to evolve. Every time you feel resistance, that's the moment to press forward. Because resistance is the gatekeeper of greatness. It's the test you must pass daily, not once, but over and over. Every morning you wake up, you're faced with a choice. Do I rise, or do I repeat? Do I rise above my excuses, or do I recycle them again today? Because success doesn't knock, it waits in silence. Behind the doors you refuse to open, and most people, they don't even reach for the handle. They convince themselves the door was never theirs. They'll say things like, I'm just not lucky. I wasn't born into it. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have time. And they'll call it realism. But it's not realism. It's resignation. It's the language of the average. It's the anthem of the unfulfilled. Because luck? It's just what happens when you've been grinding in the dark for years. And the world finally notices. Because time is created by priority. You always have time. You just spend it on things that don't move you forward. And age is irrelevant to the mind that refuses to quit. Colonel Sanders was 65 when he built KFC. Ray Kroc was over 50 when he turned McDonald's into a global empire. Vera Wang didn't design her first dress until she was 40. They didn't listen to the world's clock. They listened to the fire inside. You must do the same. Because if you don't rise above average, you'll be buried in it. You'll die with music still inside you. You'll die with dreams that never tasted daylight. You'll die with regret gnawing at your bones. And the world will never know what you could have been. You have to burn that thought into your soul. The cost of average is everything. It costs you your time. It costs you your peace. It costs you your legacy. It costs you the very reason you were born. So no, this isn't about motivation. This isn't about feeling hyped. This is about war. War between the version of you that settles and the version of you that rises. Every day, that war is raging. And every small choice, wake up early or sleep in, push harder or pull back, speak up or stay silent, go all in or coast, every one of those choices is a battle in that war. And enough small wins? Create a different destiny. You must make rising a habit. You must make courage your default setting. Because confidence isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's built by showing up when most people would hide. It's forged in the dark. When no one's clapping, no one's validating you, no one's handing you a damn thing. That's where champions are born, in the silence, in the discipline, in the decision to keep going. When the average would have already quit, you will be tested, you will be doubted, you will be tempted to fall back in line, to make others comfortable by dimming your light. But that's not who you are. That's not what you were built for. You are not here to blend. You are here to build something the world cannot ignore, to build something that echoes beyond your time. But to do that, you must rise every day with conviction, with clarity, with fire. Not just when it's easy, not just when you feel like it, but especially when you don't. Because every time you do what most people won't, you rise above what most people settle for. And that's how you become unstoppable. Average is crowded, but greatness, and that's why most is lonely. And that's why most never go there. Because when you choose the path of excellence, you walk away from the crowd, you walk alone. No applause, no validation, no map, just you and your standard. Most people lower their standard to match their environment. You must raise your environment to match your standard. If you keep waiting for your surroundings to change, you'll never move. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for support. Don't wait for the perfect time. Because average people love waiting. They love excuses dressed up as wisdom. They say things like, let's be realistic. Don't get your hopes up. Maybe later. Later becomes never. And dreams become dust. If you want to rise, you need to break the cycle, not with words, with actions, with rituals, with identity. Because once you raise your identity, your actions rise to meet it. A lion doesn't wake up wondering if it's enough. It acts like a lion, because that's what it is. And the moment you start acting like the person you were born to be, you silence every doubt. You don't need more motivation. You need to remember who you are. Who you were before the world told you to shrink, before life taught you to settle. You were born with fire in your blood. You were born with something sacred in your soul. And that sacred thing is the refusal to be average. Don't let the world bury that. Don't let routine kill that. Refuse the mediocrity that others accept. Refuse the life that plays small to fit in. The ones who rise, they look crazy at first. They're misunderstood, mocked, ignored, until the results speak louder than the opinions. Think of Edison, 10,000 failures, but he never called them failures. He called them feedback. He rose anyway. Think of Disney, fired for lack of imagination, rejected by dozens of banks. He rose anyway. Think of Oprah, told she wasn't fit for television. She rose anyway. History doesn't remember the critics, it remembers the relentless. So be relentless. Be unreasonable. Be obsessed with rising above, because the truth is, you're either building your legacy or you're wasting your life. There is no neutral. And if you don't choose your standard, the world will choose it for you. And trust me, the world's standard is low. The world's standard is average. It's built for safety, not greatness. But greatness is your birthright, and rising is your responsibility. So rise. Rise when you're tired. Rise when you're doubted. Rise when no one's watching. Because every time you rise, you write a different story. A story the world needs to hear. A story that says, I was here, and I refused to settle. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're different, and they'll be right. Because rising requires transformation. You cannot climb while clinging to who you used to be. You cannot fly with the weight of old habits on your back. Let them say you've changed. Because growth demands it. Because greatness demands it. The ones who stay average, they fear change. They fear the unknown. They fear becoming more. Because becoming more means leaving behind comfort. And most would rather stay small than face the fire of transformation. But not you. You were never meant for a life of limitation. You were never designed for mediocrity. You were born to stretch, to expand, to evolve, to become something so powerful that average can't even recognize you anymore. And yes, it hurts. Rising is not glamorous, it's brutal, it's lonely, it's filled with silence, sacrifice, and self-doubt. But it's also sacred. It's where the real you is forged, not in the crowd, but in the quiet. Not in applause, but in the pain no one sees. There's a fire inside you, and it doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't wait for motivation. It doesn't beg for permission. It burns. It burns through fear. It burns through procrastination. It burns through every lie the world told you about who you are and what you're worth. So feed that fire. Feed it with discipline. Feed it with purpose. Feed it with every step you take toward the life you know you were meant to live. And don't let the noise distract you, because average is loud. It's always talking, always explaining, always justifying its limits. But power? Real power moves in silence. It doesn't argue. It doesn't beg. It just shows up. Like a storm. Like a lion. Like destiny itself. That's what happens when you rise. You become a force. Not just someone chasing goals, but someone who embodies greatness. People feel it in your presence. They see it in your eyes. They hear it in your voice. Even when you don't say a word. Because energy never lies. And when you commit to rising, that energy becomes unstoppable. You start attracting things most people only dream about. Opportunities, respect, power, peace. Because life doesn't respond to who you pretend to be. It responds to who you become when no one's watching. When it's just you, your pain, and your purpose, and you choose to rise anyway. That's when everything changes. Because in a world of average, excellence is a language only the bold understand. And once you speak it, the world has no choice but to listen. You can't rise while trying to fit in. You can't soar while staying safe. You weren't born to blend. You were born to break limits. The crowd moves in circles, but the uncommon move in lines, forward, relentlessly, unapologetically. And when the world tries to pull you back, you smile, not with arrogance, but with certainty. Because you know what they don't. You know that discipline is freedom. You know that discomfort is a compass. You know that average dies in the presence of commitment. Most people won't understand your hunger. They'll question your obsession. They'll call it too much. Because they've never tasted greatness. They've never stood in the fire long enough to realize that the flames don't burn you. They build you. Average seeks ease, but you seek growth. Average waits for inspiration, but you act from purpose. And that's why you're different. Because every day you show up. Even when no one claps, even when your progress is invisible, even when it hurts so bad you can barely breathe, you show up anyway. Because winners don't rise on feelings. They rise on decisions. And you decided you will not be average. You decided to walk alone if that's what it takes. You decided to outwork every excuse, every limitation, every lie they ever fed you. You are not like them. You never were. You see things differently. You feel things deeper. You dream with a fire they can't extinguish. And every time you get knocked down, you get up faster. You rise harder. Because now you expect resistance. You welcome it. Because pressure creates diamonds. And you're not made of glass. You're made of grit. You're the one who keeps going when others stop. You're the one who rewrites the script everyone else was too afraid to challenge. You are the one who becomes legend. Not because it was easy, but because you refused to settle. And every time they asked, why don't you just relax? You answered without words. You showed them. In your results, in your growth, in your energy. Because real ones don't talk about potential. They prove it. You rise because you remember who you are. You don't need applause. You don't need validation. Because you are the standard now. Let the average chase attention. You chase mastery. Let the world scroll past its own potential. You build yours, brick by brick. This game is won in silence, in the dark, in the early hours when no one sees. That's where champions are made, because you stopped trying to look successful and became obsessed with being successful. Not for fame, not for vanity, but because your soul demands evolution. You can't stay where you were, not when you've seen glimpses of who you could become. And once you've seen that version of yourself, you either rise or regret. But regret is not part of your vocabulary. You choose sweat over excuses, sacrifice over comfort, vision over distraction. You no longer wait to be chosen. You choose yourself. You no longer try to fit in. You design your own lane. You no longer fear failure. You fear mediocrity. Because now you know most people don't fail from lack of talent. They fail from lack of will. And your will is forged in fire. Your vision is tattooed to your bones. They gave up after the first no. You kept knocking until you broke the damn door down. They stopped after the first mistake. You learned, pivoted, and came back smarter. They wanted overnight results. You became addicted to the process. And now they wonder how you did it, how you passed them, how you kept going when they quit. Here's how. You chose to be uncommon, unshakable, unreasonable with your standards. You didn't rise by accident. You rose by choice. Every single day. You rose because you made a non-negotiable decision. Not a wish, not a hope, a decision. Burn the bridges, burn the boats, leave no backup plan kind of decision. You looked average in the face and said, I'm not like you. Because average asks, is it easy? Is it fun? Do I feel like it today? But greatness asks, is it necessary? Is it aligned with my mission? Will it move me forward? You stopped letting your emotions lead the way and started letting your vision take the wheel. That's what separates you now. Your discipline is not emotional. It's spiritual. It's tied to your purpose. And purpose doesn't punch out at 5 p.m. This is the way of the uncommon, of those who rise, of those who refuse to be buried alive by mediocrity. You trained your mind to be stronger than your moods. You trained your habits to be bigger than your doubts. You trained your spirit to be louder than your fears. Because deep down, you understood success is not a hack. It's a war against the voice that says slow down, against the part of you that's terrified of your own potential. You made a vow. I will never again apologize for wanting more. I will never again shrink to make others comfortable. I will never again trade greatness for convenience. That's when you began to rise. And once you rise, you don't go back. Because you've seen the view from the mountain, and you'd rather bleed climbing higher than rot slowly on level ground. Average lives for the weekend. You live for the work, the grind, the craft, the obsession. Average waits for permission. You moved without it. You didn't wait for the stars to align. You became the gravity that pulls things into motion. Because once you realize you are the cause, not the effect, everything changes. You stop chasing and start creating. You stop begging and start building. You stop complaining and start commanding. There is a power that lives in you, but it only answers to responsibility. Responsibility is the key that unlocks your next level, not talent, not luck, not approval. And that's why most people stay average. They run from the weight, they run from the pressure. But pressure doesn't break you. It forms you. It shapes the steel in your spine. It calls forth the leader inside of you. Because without the pressure, there is no diamond. So you did what average never does. You embraced the burden. You held the line. You showed up when no one clapped. You worked when it wasn't cool. You stayed when it was lonely. That's why the world is beginning to notice. That's why the tide is turning. That's why the momentum is shifting. Because when you decide to rise, truly rise, the universe doesn't ignore it. It moves with you. It opens doors no resume ever could. It draws people to you that mirrors can't reflect. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Because your hunger is undeniable. Because your standard is immovable. Because your energy speaks before your words ever can. You will never rise above the average unless you are willing to pay the price. It's not just about what you do, but how much you're willing to endure. The average person seeks comfort. The extraordinary person seeks discomfort. They push through the pain, the struggle, the failures, because they understand that greatness is forged in the fire of adversity. No one ever became extraordinary by staying within the lines. You must go beyond what is expected of you. And in doing so, you break the chains of mediocrity. You break free from the crowd, from the average. But this path is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who dare to walk alone. It's for the ones who refuse to settle. The world is full of people who wait for opportunities to come to them. But opportunity doesn't wait for anyone. It's something you must create. The average person waits. The exceptional person moves, relentlessly. They're never satisfied with where they are, because they know the journey is never over. They chase the dream, not for the reward, but for the growth. Because growth is the only true measure of success. It's the hunger, the relentless drive, the fire within that sets them apart. While others make excuses, they make progress. While others fall victim to circumstances, they rise above them. They're not waiting for the perfect moment. They create the perfect moment. They refuse to accept the comfort of good enough. For them, good enough is never enough. Their eyes are always set on the next level, the next challenge, the next victory. If you want to rise above everyone who settles for average, you must embrace the discomfort of growth. You must be willing to step outside your comfort zone every single day, because comfort is the enemy of greatness. Average people are content with being good enough, but the extraordinary, they are hungry for more. They thrive in the face of uncertainty, the unknown. They know that with every risk, every challenge, comes growth. That's where true progress happens. That's where the magic is made, in the struggle, in the grind, in the pursuit of something greater than yourself. And that's how you break free from the average, not by seeking comfort, but by relentlessly chasing your potential. By becoming the person who doesn't just talk about success, but who creates it, day in, day out. No excuses, no shortcuts, just work. And when you do that, the world can't help but take notice. It's the kind of power that only comes from within. It's the kind of power that will make you unstoppable. To rise above the average, you must first embrace the truth that greatness is a choice. It's not a gift you're born with. It's not something you're lucky enough to stumble upon. Greatness is born from your decisions. The decisions you make every single day. It's about the small, consistent actions that compound over time. It's not about overnight success, because that doesn't exist. It's about the steady grind, the commitment, the discipline. It's about showing up when no one is watching. And it's about doing the work when the world tries to pull you into complacency. The average person is distracted by the noise of life. They are swayed by the opinions of others, the judgments of society. But the extraordinary person knows that their path is theirs alone. They tune out the noise. They listen only to their inner calling, and they walk forward with purpose, with clarity, with an unshakable resolve. They don't waste time on things that don't matter. They focus only on the things that move them closer to their goal. They understand that time is the most precious commodity they have, and they guard it fiercely. Every moment is an opportunity. Every decision is a chance to build a better future. They make the most of every second. They understand that their choices today will shape their reality tomorrow. The average person sees obstacles. The extraordinary person sees opportunities. Where others see setbacks, they see lessons. Where others see failure, they see growth. They don't fear challenges. They embrace them. They are not afraid of falling. They know that failure is simply the bridge to success. It's the necessary step that must be taken to reach greatness. Because without failure, there is no growth. Without challenge, there is no strength. And without persistence, there is no victory. The average person gives up when the road gets tough, but the extraordinary person gets tougher when the road gets rough. They understand that the greatest battles are won within. They know that the only limit that exists is the one they place on themselves. So they fight. They keep going. They rise above. And in doing so, they become unstoppable. Because the ones who dare to rise above the average are the ones who change the world. They are the innovators, the dreamers, the trailblazers. The ones who, when the world says it can't be done, find a way to make it happen. The ones who don't accept mediocrity as a standard. The ones who push beyond the limits and show the world what true greatness looks like. And when you make that choice, when you choose greatness over average, you will become the change you seek. You will rise. Not only above the average, but above your own doubts, your own limitations, and create a future beyond what you ever thought was possible.